Michael DeSanta, originally known as Michael Townley, was born in either 1965 or 1968. His early life was spent in the Midwest, possibly in North Yankton, where he experienced a deprived upbringing in a trailer park environment. Michael's father was not present in his life, and the stories about his father were inconsistent, with claims that he skipped town, was hit by a train, or joined the Navy. From an early age, Michael did not have the luxuries or privileges that his own children would later enjoy. His challenging childhood and the absence of his father played a significant role in shaping his future. As a teenager, Michael was a high school football player, a jock, but his sports career did not pan out as he had hoped, which contributed to his decision to turn to a life of crime. Michael's criminal career began with his first bank robbery in 1998 on the outskirts of Carcer City, where he managed to steal over $100,000 from a small franchise. This event marked the beginning of his journey as a bank robber and career criminal. Eventually, Michael faked his own death to retire and hoped to live a peaceful life with his family in Los Santos. However, his past caught up with him, and his unhealthy relationship with his family led him back into the criminal world. Enters Brad. Brad's early life is largely unexplored, but he pursued a life of crime as an adult. He didn't commit any serious crimes until he met Trevor Phillips and became a member of their heist crew, which also included Michael and Lester Crest. They robbed banks and made a fortune while evading law enforcement. Brad was known to be disliked by both Michael and Lester, who distrusted him. However, Trevor thought highly of Brad and favored him over Michael during the last years of their partnership. In 2004, Brad was involved in a heist in Ludendorff, North Yankton, which went terribly wrong. During their escape, Brad and Michael were shot by Dave Norton, an FIB agent. Brad was killed, while Michael faked his death as part of a deal with Norton. For years, Trevor believed that Brad was imprisoned while Michael had died. In reality, Brad was buried under Michael's name. Dave Norton, pretending to be Brad, corresponded with Trevor to keep tabs on him. This deception played a significant role in the storyline, as Trevor eventually discovered the truth, leading to a tense reunion with Michael. There are speculations about Brad's character, such as his true feelings towards the crew and his potential involvement in other undisclosed crimes. Some fans speculate that Brad might have been more involved in the crew's dynamics than what is shown in the game. However, these remain as fan theories and are not confirmed within the game's narrative. But what if Brad was planning something sinister behind Michael's back? As we all know, Michael, Trevor, and Brad were tight back in their heisting days. But over time, tensions grew between them, especially with Trevor's increasingly unhinged behavior. Some fans believe that by the time of the Ludendorff job gone wrong, Trevor had become disillusioned with Michael's desire to get out of the game and settle down with his family. Trevor saw Michael as holding them back and thought he didn't need him anymore to be successful. Additionally, Brad seemed more loyal to Trevor than Michael at that point. So the theory goes that Brad and Trevor were going to cut Michael out and continue their criminal empire without him after the big score in North Yankton. There are a few pieces of evidence that lend credibility to this theory. During certain missions, Trevor makes comments implying he thinks Michael has gone soft in his suburban life. However, there are also arguments against this idea, like Michael, Trevor, and Brad had been through a lot together over many years of jobs. Their bond and loyalty to each other seemed very strong overall. So, why did Michael really betray Trevor? C. At the heart of Michael's decision to betray his longtime crew members, Trevor and Brad was his desire for a fresh start and a normal life away from the chaos and violence of their criminal empire. As someone who had started a family, Michael's priorities had shifted. He no longer craved the adrenaline rush of daring heists like his unhinged partner Trevor did. While their criminal partnership had been strong for years, Michael had grown increasingly distrustful of Trevor's mental stability and Brad's unquestioning loyalty to Trevor's whims. He viewed them as psychos, whose reckless behavior and increasing disregard for human life jeopardized not just their operations, but Michael's chances at escaping that life of crime. Trevor acted in shockingly violent ways that clearly disturb Michael. Brad, meanwhile, seems to egg Trevor on rather than be a voice of reason. This likely planted the seeds of doubt in Michael's mind about whether he could truly trust these two men with his future and family's safety. Unlike Trevor, who lived for the thrill with no attachments, Michael had established real roots: a wife, 2 kids, a nice house in the suburbs. He had tasted domestic tranquility and wanted more of it, despite being drawn back into crime later in GTA V's story. Michael realized that as long as he ran with uncontrollable wildcards like Trevor and Brad, he would never be allowed to separate himself from that insane lifestyle they both craved. His betrayal was essentially cutting off a diseased limb so the rest of him could live normally. While the exact details are unknown, it's theorized that Michael negotiated a permanent exit from their criminal organization, likely by giving up intel that led to the disastrous Ludendorff job and his apparent death. In exchange, he'd receive a clean slate and be able to integrate into witness protection with his family. This betrayal allowed Michael to achieve the new lease on life he desperately craved, at the expense of ratting out his closest friends to corruption within their ranks. It was perhaps an agonizing choice, but one Michael viewed as necessary to build the normal existence he could never attain with Trevor and Brad in the picture. Michael's decision haunted him for a decade after faking his death. When Trevor inevitably resurfaces in GTA V's story, the anger, violence, and instability that defined him comes rushing back into Michael's life, threatening to demolish the peaceful existence he sacrificed so much to build. In the end, Michael's betrayal was an extreme act of self-preservation that allowed him to escape his former life, but one he could never fully run away from. The bond between him, Trevor, and Brad may have been broken, but the past always has a way of catching up in the aftermath of such a devastating betrayal. According to the story presented in GTA V, Michael Townley entered witness protection after the failed Ludendorff job, living under the new identity Michael DeSanta for a decade until Trevor finds him. However, upon closer inspection, this official narrative has several holes that suggest a more clandestine arrangement. He was never in the witness protection. I believe the key factor is Dave Norton's role as an FIB agent carrying out an unsanctioned external investigation into the robbery crew. As far as we can tell, he was operating outside official bureau channels, handling Michael as an off-the-books informant. This makes the idea that Norton properly integrated Michael into WITSEC via formal DOJ protocols seem highly unlikely. Why go through all those official channels when you're already operating in the shadows? It makes more sense that Norton and Michael struck some unofficial deal under the table. In exchange for ratting out key intel that hung his crew out to dry, Norton would personally ensure Michael received a new identity and means to live in secrecy away from his criminal life. By keeping everything unofficial, there would be no U.S. Marshals involved in Michael's relocation and no documented paper trail for entry into witness protection. This would prevent his underworld associates from potentially sniffing out his new locale if they had DOJ connections. It was all run through Norton's personal contacts and corrupt agents he could trust to set Michael up securely without the threat of red tape exposing him. A simple under-the-radar arrangement benefiting them both. Additionally, the amateurish way Michael's witness protection setup is handled in-game hints that it was a rushed, unofficial deal made on the fly. His wealth is never properly hidden or accounted for. He's not monitored closely at all, and he's left prone to trips that ultimately blow his cover. A formal Marshals integration would have the service's resources to handle identity transitioning much more professionally than what we see play out. This lack of official rigor supports the notion it was just Norton winging it to quickly get Michael off the radar in exchange for taking the fall. Ultimately, I don't believe Michael ever officially entered witness protection through the justice system's sanctioned protocol. It was an under-the-table arrangement made in desperation by both parties, one where Norton found a useful fall guy and Michael escaped his past, at least temporarily. An utterly unofficial deal forged in secrecy between two pragmatic operators. And that's what Michael's character is all about. From the moment Trevor discovers Michael didn't actually die during the Ludendorff job, I see Michael's reactions as those of a man cornered, not someone delighted to be reunited with an old friend. He's constantly suspicious of Trevor's unhinged nature, and doubting whether the volatility won't blow back on the peaceful suburban existence he built. Even with Franklin, he's always lowering expectations, questioning motives, and making backhanded comments about Franklin's capabilities and loyalty. It's clear Michael relies on no one's word or bond but his own. Michael decided to save his own skin at all costs, snitching out his closest allies in the process. He got his fresh start, but it came at the price of forever questioning whether even his family could be trusted allies in the long run. His wife's infidelity and his kids' failures to meet his expectations only amplified this jaded, selfish worldview over the years leading up to GTA 5's story. By the time Trevor resurfaces, I contend Michael is so emotionally calloused and inwardly focused that he's willing to put the vision of his perfect life he built ahead of any remnant obligation towards his supposed friend. He demands respect, but gives none in return out of self-preservation. And that's all, folks. What do you think of my analysis? Please let me know in the comments section, and I'll make sure to see you in the next video. Till then, take care and have a nice day.